Hello Leute, so now we're going to look at saying what kind of house you live in using adjectives and using the dative case. Okay, so when we use the preposition in or auf, often in the case of location, we use the dative. Okay. So we're going to look at saying what kind of house you live in, use adjectives in the dative case, and describe your house and its location. Now you're going to need pen and paper or pencil and paper, so I'll be pausing this at points where you need to write things down. So if you do not have pen and paper handy, pause this now, go and get it, and then come back. So, wo wohnst du? Ich wohne. We've got these different types here. In einem Bungalow. Okay? So, when we're using der words or das words, remember we've got in einem, auf einem, yeah, so in einem Bungalow, auf einem Bauernhof, in einem Reihenhaus, in einem Doppelhaus, in einem Einfamilienhaus und in einer Wohnung. So you can see with the feminine here it's different. We say in einer Wohnung. So when you describe where you live, a sound change occurs after the preposition in. This sound change is called the dative. Okay, so in your grammar booklets we discussed the accusative and dative cases, etc., and you should have tables, but I will be putting that on as a reminder shortly. Have a look at this. So you've got mein Bungalow, mein Haus, meine Wohnung. So mein Bungalow ist, mein Haus ist, meine Wohnung ist. My bungalow, my house, my apartment is gross. Okay, so we can just say it is big. When saying I live in, we've got to change it to dative. Ich wohne in einem Bungalow. So I live in a bungalow. In einem Bungalow. Ich wohne in einem Haus. Ich wohne in einer Wohnung. So we've got the endings for the a words, yeah, the indefinite articles. A bungalow, in einem Bungalow. A house, in einem Haus. An apartment, in einer Wohnung. When we want to add an adjective to this, we need to think about an ending for the adjective. Okay, so if you now add an adjective like gross in front of the noun that you're describing, the adjective endings for this dative case are always en. So that's pretty easy to remember. Okay, you always put an en when you're using an adjective. Okay, and the same is true for mein, my, dein, your, sein, his, and kein, none. Okay. Ich wohne in einem neuen Bungalow. So you can see we've got in einem neuen Bungalow. So the adjective ending is en. Ich wohne in einem schönen Haus. En, in a beautiful house or in a lovely house. Ich wohne in einer kleinen Wohnung. So the adjectives all take en. En, en, en. Wo wohnst du? Where do you live? Ich wohne. Now we've got modern here, or modern is the adjective.
In einem modernen Bungalow.
So it says, wo wohnst du? The question is, where do you live? Ich wohne, I live, in a modern bungalow. In einem modernen Bungalow.
Auf einem alten Bauernhof.
On an old farm.
In einem schönen Reihenhaus.
In a beautiful terraced house.
In einem großen Doppelhaus.
In a large double house.
In einem neuen Einfamilienhaus.
In a new one-family house or detached house.
In einer kleinen Wohnung.
In a small apartment. Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to write these sentences in full. So, ich wohne in something schön with the ending Reihenhaus. Pause it and write it down. When you have written it down, we'll go on to the next one. Meine Großeltern wohnen in, they live in, what comes next? Pause it and write it down. Mein Freund wohnt in modern Doppelhaus. Wir wohnen in Bungalow. Meine beste Freundin wohnt in something, Einfamilienhaus. Okay, so if you look here, we've got ich, meine Großeltern, mein Freund, wir, and meine beste Freundin. So it doesn't matter who we are talking about. It doesn't matter who the subject of the sentence is. Where we've got the preposition in, that is what denotes the adjective endings. Yeah. And also obviously the endings for a. Yeah. So in einem schönen Reihenhaus. Okay, so it's das Haus, die Wohnung, das Doppelhaus, der Bungalow, das Einfamilienhaus. Okay.
Ich wohne.
So here we've got a little bit new vocabulary.
In einer Wohnsiedlung. In einer Großstadt. der Stadtmitte von. In einem kleinen Dorf. Auf dem Land. Am Stadtrand von.
Okay, so what we've got here, I live in a housing estate in a big city in the town centre of, in a small village, in the countryside, on the edge of the town. Okay. Okay, ignore this for now. Okay, so what I want you to do now is copy the table below. I'm going to do a listening exercise using the audio from here. Okay, so pause the tape now, pause the video now, and just copy down the table there. Okay, so basically you've got to write in the column where it says house or Wohnung, what type of house or apartment, and where it is. Okay, so pause it between each one so that you've got time to write it down.
Hallo, ich heiße Sabine. Ich wohne in einem Doppelhaus auf dem Land. Guten Tag, mein Name ist Heidi. Ich wohne in einem Reihenhaus am Stadtrand. Grüezi, ich bin die Anna. Ich wohne in einem Einfamilienhaus in einem Dorf. Hi, ich heiße Clara und ich wohne in einer Wohnung in der Stadtmitte.
So, you've got the answers here. Ich wohne in einem Doppelhaus auf dem Land. Ich wohne in einem Reihenhaus am Stadtrand. Ich wohne in einem Einfamilienhaus in einem Dorf. Ich wohne in einer Wohnung in der Stadtmitte. Okay.
Mein Haus liegt.
So now we're talking about where my house is situated. Whereabouts is it? Es liegt. Yeah, mein Haus liegt.
In der Nähe von. In einem Vorort von. Nicht weit von. In meiner Gegend gibt es. Sondern. Mit einem schönen Blick auf. Mit einer tollen Aussicht auf. Teilen.
Okay, so here's some really good useful vocabulary that you could be using in your presentation. I just want to show you this word here, sondern. Okay, here it's got but it means more but rather. Okay, so for instance, ich wohne nicht in den Bergen, sondern an der Küste. Yeah? So I don't live in the mountains, but rather on the coast, okay? So other times where you're using but, you'd use aber, remember. So you can write these down.